Welcome back. I hope you were able to come up with some helpful strategies for those nervous symptoms you normally feel when you present a speech. So I'm here to help share some more tips about ways to boost your confidence. Now, some of these are reviewing the chapter on anxiety from your textbook. Others are things that have been passed along to me from past debate coaches, theater instructors, and my, of course, old teammates on the speech and debate team. So number one here on the slide, modify your thoughts and attitudes toward public speaking. This just goes back to what I was saying in the last video. Embrace the adrenaline rush. Countless social science studies have shown us that when we have negative thoughts about an activity, that only increases our anxiety. So really try to think of it as less of a threat and more of an opportunity to get that natural high and feeling of accomplishment once you've done a speech well. Again, think of it not just as a rewarding and challenging activity, but if you feel like maybe you have above average speech anxiety, an extension of an ordinary conversation, as I also mentioned earlier. Now, I'm sure every single person in this class can think back to something they did a couple weeks ago that was really fun or exciting, and you could recount that story to a small group of friends of yours. You could tell them what happened while making eye contact with every single one of them. You could do it with some vocal energy in your voice, and I bet you could even make that story interesting with language and description. So place yourself in that mindset. If you can do that with a small group of acquaintances, then simply extend that conversation to a larger group. Number two, don't procrastinate. Now, of course, that's good advice for any college class, but particularly true if the activity is something you are maybe dreading. Lots of people feel that anxiety level toward public speaking, so they delay prepping, and that's only going to make things worse. Delaying prepping means there's less time for you to build and then practice that speech. And out loud practice sessions multiple times is one of the keys to success. So, once you're assigned a speech, pick your topic as soon as you possibly can. Start that brainstorming process. Then start your outline, your research, and once you feel like that's pretty well fleshed out, begin out loud practice sessions and do them often. You can do them by yourself, at least to begin with. I would recommend doing them in the mirror a couple times, maybe even film yourself and watch it. And do them standing up, exactly as you would when you're going to present it for the class. If you can, get another warm body in front of you. That way you have an audience and you can gauge their feedback as you're delivering the speech. But anywhere you have a little bit of downtime, where maybe you're doing a task like a chore or getting ready in the morning, use that downtime mentally to think about your speech. I would do that when I would prepare for a competition, a speech where I was trying to memorize it even. I would, when I was driving, be saying that speech out loud to myself in the car. When I was getting ready in the morning, I would be rehearsing that speech, playing with different ways to use my vocals, my pauses, my rhythm, all of that stuff. So look for those down times in your day and use them as a way to put polish on your speech, essentially. So practice out loud and practice out loud often. Number three, know your audience. Now, this comes with time often, especially in a class situation. You get to know more about the people in this course by usually interacting with them, but this time it'll be by watching their speeches pretty much solely. But essentially that will help you know what they care about, what issues, what needs, what concerns, and if you can anticipate their reaction to a certain topic, then you're just going to be more comfortable, hands down. Consider the needs of your audience. Be more audience-centered. And that's a key problem with public speaking, is we're often in our own head. We are so speaker-centered, we forget about the needs and the wants of the people in the room. So do your part to consider that, and you'll go in there confident saying, yeah, you know what? I have something of use to share with these people. They're actually going to be really interested in what I have to say. Number four, know your introduction and conclusion. That may sound a little strange. You may be asking yourself, well, shouldn't I know my whole speech? Yes. What number 4 is referring to is primarily memorization. I do not encourage students to memorize their speeches from their entirety front to back. Not for this class. We move too quickly and we do too many speeches for that typically to execute well. But what I do recommend you memorize, if you can, is first the introduction, and then if you have more time, the conclusion. First, why the introduction? Well, I know for me, and it can't just be me alone, so others as well, the most nerve-wracking moments of a speech are the opening ones. That first minute and a half, when you are just thinking about everything else but what you're saying. And that's a vulnerable time. You can forget something, feel like you really bombed, and then your confidence just crashes for the rest of the speech. So, if you can memorize that introduction, everything from what you will say to how you will say it, you can operate on autopilot essentially and know you're going to be okay coming out the other side, because about 2 minutes later, you've done all of that well, and you are calmed down at that point. You've gotten through that first nerve-wracking few moments, and you begin to be more mindful. You think about what you're saying, and you're watching the audience, and you're seeing the reaction at that point. So that introduction there, if it's memorized, gives you time to mentally calm down and ease into the presentation. Now, the conclusion. A safe harbor, if something happens in the speech, say you feel like you did mess up, remember, we may not have even noticed, or you feel like you lost your place. You don't just want to sort of throw your hands up in the air and say, well, I ruined that, and kind of shuffle off. You can still leave a strong, lasting last impression with a really good nugget for your closing. So always try to have some little creative thing that you leave us with, just like you'll always want to have a creative opener for your introduction. Number 5, visualization exercises. Now, if any of you ever played sports, you probably had a coach who encouraged you to do this. I know I did. When I played softball, my pitching coach would have me do visualization exercises, and these can be cross-applied to the speech situation. So what would happen is I would be forced to envision myself in a game and going through the motions of a pitch, perfectly executed every single time. And it would be very detailed, from the way I was standing and holding the ball in my glove from the beginning to the release in my fingertips at the very end of the pitch, and then watching it go perfectly into the strike zone and the catcher's mitt. Now think of that in terms of a speech. Envision, normally it would be the classroom, where you will set up and record your speeches. From the beginning to the end, what will be the first words out of your mouth? How will you say them? When will you move, gesture, change your voice or your pacing? All of that is going to lead to a more successful speech in the end. Those realistic rehearsals will boost your confidence when you actually have to then deliver. Number 5, body manipulation. So as we discussed with the last video, our bodies do strange things with speech anxiety, and we need to sometimes do some strange things to help trick our body into being more normal. So deep breathing exercises are great for getting that breath under control and the heart rate down. Do something physical, whether that's a few push-ups before you give the speech, a brisk walk around your property, around the block, tensing the muscles in your legs. All of that can help work out some of those nerves beforehand. So get that energy out there. Another tensing muscle, good trick I like to encourage. This is for folks who might have shaky hands. A lot of us do. I know I've had that in the past. So fun little trick, if you do this for a good several minutes right before you have to deliver your speech, you're less likely to shake because you're simply wearing out the muscles. They'll be too fatigued to shake, or at least shake as much as they might normally have when you're feeling nervous. And another, on the slide there, number 3 under body manipulation, another reason we use note cards and not something like a full sheet of notebook paper not only does it look more professional, but those note cards, they're smaller, they're sturdier. So if you are shaking, we are much less likely to see it with that sort of material. And one more under body manipulation I'll share. It's not listed, but I'll go ahead and throw it in right now, is fidgeting, which a lot of us have a tendency to do when we're nervous. We may not know what to do with our hands. So avoid holding items like a pen, let's say. You don't need that during your speech. Keep your hands free and clear. That way you are more likely to gesture. And that's why I'll be watching, your partner will be watching. If we notice you start fidgeting with clothing, jewelry, or hair, we can give you tips on maybe you need to just pull your hair back on speech days or remove that piece of jewelry. Eventually you won't have anything to play with, so your hands will want to do something, and they're apt to just move into gestures, and that can help underscore your points. Number 5 there, project confidence. This is your last tip. I want you to think of someone after you've watched this video, at least one, if not 2 people, who you think are really strong speakers. This could be somebody you know personally. Maybe you've had a great teacher or coach in the past, perhaps someone at a religious service you think are really dynamic speakers. Identify a couple of those folks. Once you do that, then get really specific and ask yourself, what makes them good speakers? Is it the stories they tell? The way they use vivid language? Maybe it's their vocal variety, or the rhythm that they build with the pauses, the cadence that's pleasing to the ear. Whatever it is, try to pinpoint those factors, and then once you do, start incorporating them into your speeches. That way you know you're starting with a strong foundation. You said this person is strong for this reason, and there you go. You start making your own speeches and developing your own speaking style based on what you've seen them do well. All right, so I hope I've given you some tips on how to boost your confidence before we go into your first prepared recorded speech, which is the brown bag, and you'll have a video in this module explaining the requirements for that assignment to watch.